Hello. I brought Annie. Thanks. Yes. Yeah. This is just always. A lot of stuff I shall work. A lot of contacts.
Sit down.
Oh.
See you on the, parade, what were the college? Are you on the bus for the parade? Yeah. Trying to wave at you. Well, I think on both sides of the bus. So you were waving, you were.
I was trying to.
Hey, how you? You see?
So I felt good enough to walk that day. I did walk a little bit, but I knew I was going to go
Yeah.
parade. That's why I made all my grandchildren come. They were very upset with me. But they had to walk the parade with their grandma. They kept talking, can I go to the city? My grandson with the city, can I go? I said, no, you walk with your grandma. No representation. Nobody else.
Good.
I don't do, that's not true. I often go grandma card and mama card and any other card.
I said, get no care on it.
Yeah.
It's okay.
How are you?
You better move. Yeah. I'm not gonna get it. You know, she.
Yeah, I asked. I asked questions. Or number six, so they can send them. Thank you. I see.
Call this meeting to order. Beverly, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Chairman, good afternoon, Board of Directors. Director Bright,
Here.
Director Brantley,
Here.
Director Lassiter. Not present for roll call, Director Snowden,
Present.
Director Damasceno. Not present for roll call, Director Owens. Not present for roll call. Director Whiteley.
Here.
Director Taylor.
Here.
Director Dr. Buford. Vice Chair Moore.
Here.
And Chairman Leggett.
Here.
Chairman, you have a form for in-person meeting.
Thank you, Beverly. Also, I have the approval of the agenda item number 2. Can I have a motion to accept the agenda and a second, please?
Oh, that we accept the agenda.
Second.
The properly moved and seconded that we approve the agenda. Can I move the properly?
Yeah, correct. Director Bright,
Yeah.
Director Brantley,
Yes.
Director Lassiter. Not present for the vote, Director Snowden.
Yes.
Director Damasceno, not present for the vote, Director Owens. Director-
Yes, present.
Director Whiteley,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Dr. Buford. Yes. Vice Chair Moore
Yes.
and Chairman Leggett.
Yes.
Chairman, motion passed to approve today's agenda for March 24, 2026.
Thank you, Beverly. Third item, we have presentations. We're gonna move to the second item. The certificates and employee recognition, election Caesar, also, our CEO will come to the podium, please. Caesar.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Shalondra Caesar, Human Resources Manager here with Chatham Area Transit. And I've been in this position for the last 4 months. This is probably one of the most honorable times I will ever have as a Human Resources Manager. And that is the opportunity to recognize those that have given service to our organization. We have 4 retirees that we're honoring here today, and we have 2 individuals that we're honoring for their years of service. What I will do is share one certificate from the retirement and the other for years of service. As I call your name, would you please come up? You will be given a gift. For our men, we have engraved watches that says Chatham Area Transit. And for our ladies, we have pendants for you as well. The same chat that says Chatham Area Transit. This is just a memento for you to continue to remember the organization. Mr. Chairman and our CEO, Mrs. Cutter, will provide those tokens to them. And so when I call your name, would you please come up? The certificates say, the retiree's name, the first is Mr. Stephen Curtis, has honorably retired from service with Chatham Area Transit in recognition of 31 years of dedicated his tenure, Mr. Curtis demonstrated professionalism, commitment, and a steadfast dedication to serving the community. His contributions have played a vital role in advancing the mission and operational excellence of this organization. We extend our sincere appreciation for your years of service and wish for you to have continued success, fulfillment, and enjoyment in your retirement. That is presented to you on behalf of our CEO, Mrs. Cutter, and our chairman, Mr. Leggett. Absolutely.
Good job.
Yes. I'd just like to add, Mr. Curtis loves us so much, he's coming back as a part-time operator, and we welcome him back. He is so distinctly dressed. Our next honoree is Miss Barbara Sanders. Miss Barbara Sanders has given 25 years. She worked in the call center, and from our understanding upstairs, it began with Miss Barbara. It was just one person. And so we're very happy to have her as a part of our organization for such a long time. Our next honoree. Nina Thunder Burrows. Ms. Burrows has committed 22 years of service as a fixed-star operator. Just to give a hug. Last retiree is probably headed to a Braves game. And it's Mr. Gregory Berryweather. He's had 21 years of service with the organization as a fixed route operator. And that's his picture right there. And in addition to the retirees, we want to take a moment to recognize the 5, 10, 20 years of service of employees. And we have 2 in that category today. With 5 years of service, we have our Director of Marine Services, Mr. John Allen. Here I recognize the 5 years of dedicated service to the Chatham Area Transit. His commitment and professionalism and contributions have supported the continued success of the organization. Thank you so much. We also have with 20 years of service on the ferry, Mr. Captain David Wayne. This concludes our recognitions. We look forward to recognizing our retirees and those that are contributing years of service at the last board meeting of every quarter. So this is something what we will continue to do. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Ms. Caesar, and thank your staff always. And also, if you haven't seen, if you are looking out in the lobby, we have all of our retirees and in our honorable mentions, everyone has their picture up scrolling on the screen. So we want to make sure that you guys know this is something new that we're going to continue to highlight our employees and our family members as great things happen here at Chatham Area Transit. So next we have on our agenda, we have a presentation from Director Shipyard Ferry Boat Construction. And this is our opportunity board members to have any questions and answers from them, because I know we have some questions being that we have already.
They are on. Yes, sir. Eric? Eric?
Hi. I'm
Okay.
here. I'm not sure if you can see me, but hopefully you can hear me.
I hear you.
Great. My name's Eric. I think I've met most of you before. I'm joined here by my teammate and the project manager for your vessels, Mike Walsh. We were asked a couple of weeks ago to join this meeting to give you an update on the boats and answer any questions you might have. Give me 1 second to pull up the latest update so I have the current information. Were you shared the update that Mike provided to Ms. Cutter today?
No, it has not gone out to the board.
Okay, I'll open that up and share my screen then. 1 second, just navigating Zoom here. And we can send this out, or Ms. Cutter has this after and can send it out so you can review in a different format if this is a little bit difficult to see. So first, I'll show you the highlights. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Is that I couldn't hear you there. I can see you. Is there a thumbs up anywhere that you can?
We don't see it at all, Eric.
Okay, I am sharing it. It says the can only be seen by the host and co-hosts.
There it is.
We got it.
Okay, great. So this here, the format's not horizontal, so it might be a little challenging, but this is the most comprehensive picture taken today of boat number 3. You can see the primer is on the hull and the top sides are painted. The interior outfit is continuing on schedule, ahead of schedule. Some other highlights here. The bow area of the boat, you can see the work going on inside, finishing a lot of the electrical pulls and terminations. This was an earlier picture from the watertight testing with the Coast Guard. So you can see that red dye is the dye penetrant that we use to test the quality of the welds on the hulls. And then the Coast Guard comes and observes testing of the hull itself. Picture of the bow anchor installation, which I believe we modified a little bit from boats 1 and 2 based on feedback from John Allen and Mike. Installation of the galvanic isolator and shore power connections. Some of the in-house constructed electrical equipment. I think this is the DC, one of the DC sub panels on the aft facing bulkhead in the battery room. And then the primary power panels on the right side of the picture there. This is on the inboard bulkhead, showing all of BAE's equipment mounted on the foundations and the corresponding wire poles. Most of this work is complete. I think yesterday or today we have one of the engineers from BAE coming to help support the initial part of the final installation and the start of commissioning. And this is the installation of the batteries. On both sides, so port and this was starboard. This is the fire pump down in the hulls. One of the hulls. I believe this is on the starboard side. We switched the fire pump from one side to the other. One of the lessons learned from boats 1 and 2, De Jong and LeBay, after they confirmed the stability requirements of the boat, we had to add ballast and foam on 1 and 2 based on the design that we built to. So in order to reduce the amount of extra weight and ballast added to the boat, we moved certain components and wireways away from the port side towards center line and some equipment from the port hull to the starboard hull. So this will, at the minimum, reduce the amount of extra ballast that is needed with the potential to eliminate the ballast, which will save a lot of time and effort and just be better for the boat overall. This is the chiller equipment in one of the hull voids. So all the liquid cooling for the components on board, batteries, BAE's equipment is cooled by this system. And then some of the panels here up in the pilot house, a lot of that outfitting is nearing completion. The auxiliary console in the wheelhouse, battery charger, disconnects. And then the wheelhouse main console, here's another area where we made some changes to better suit the ergonomics of the captains. and a picture of the wheelhouse door on the port side. Water jets installed. These are the newer high thrust water jets, which are better suited for the operating profile of your vessels on the river there, as opposed to a higher speed jet. So more thrust, more efficiency at lower speeds. And then here's the water jet installation inside of that transom on the foundation. I can jump back to these later if you have any questions. I know I'm going through them pretty quickly. It's gonna stop sharing my screen there and going to the email. So this is just reading off of Mike's update email to Ms. Cutter. So in terms of the outfit, in the pilot house, the ceilings are complete, the bulkheads are complete, consoles are complete, like I showed you in the passenger space. The bulkheads are 85% complete. The auxiliary systems, port and starboard ESS and electronics cooling is complete. Fire main deluge systems are complete. Exhaust underneath the vessel inside the two hulls coming out from the generator spaces are complete. And once Cummins engines are installed, we'll finish the interiors of those spaces. Fuel supply and return to Cummins engines are complete. Sorry about that. In the electrical space, the port engine and starboard engine low voltage wiring is complete. Fire detection system is completely wired, and once the ceilings are installed, we'll add the detectors and test the system. All the lighting wiring has been ran, and part of terminating that wiring will coincide with finishing the interior outfitting. BAE's high voltage wiring is delivered at their facility, and the special high voltage plugs will be installed, which will save time for final installation at our facility. Like I said, the underwater hull has been primed. Anti-fouling has not been applied yet. Usually you wait to do that until right before the boats are launched. Deckhouse exterior bulkhead painting is complete, and the remaining painting besides the anti-fouling is non-skid deck coatings. And then other material that has been delivered, ceiling panels are received at the shipyard, doors are received at the shipyard, windows, Cummins engines and BAE generators, seating. What we are missing, key components that are missing, are the starboard BAE maps module, which was sent to Savannah to replace the unit that failed while the failed unit is being repaired by BAE to keep that vessel in service. And then both GPM-12 electric propulsion motors were received but have been sent to Savannah to replace the failed units, which BAE is repairing to keep those vessels in operation, similar to the maps. So that's the update on boat 3. Switching to my list. I understand there are a lot of questions and concerns about the operability and reliability of boats 1 and 2. The items that we're tracking are the BAE motors. Like I said, Suzy King Taylor 2 has 2 new motors from boat 3 that we sent down. Juliet Gordon Low 2's motors are being repaired. There was a keel cooler issue where we replaced the gasket. The Juliet Gordon Low 2's gasket will be repaired during her yard period. MJP controls were an issue. MJP solved the problem. There was a signal for gears, which we do not have on these boats, that the directions on how to terminate them were incorrect, causing the wrong signal to cycle on and off which caused the steering problems that the team was experiencing. So we corrected how that signal wire was wired and have solved that problem. We navigated the battery issue, which we talked about at the last board meeting that I attended, by making the decision to purchase those batteries. So I really appreciate the CAT team being flexible and proactive to buy the spares that you will need. So last we tracked, John received them today. And we have some of the other components that we will also provide upon delivery of boat 3. We need that piece for the commissioning of the third boat. And then last week I put John in contact with the contractor who's taken over servicing of the Freudenberg batteries. So I think it remains to be seen how good of a contractor they are and what their service agreements look like, but we will stand by John to make sure that we advocate for what is best for CAT and maintaining those boats. But I'm cautiously optimistic. There was a paint issue on Suzy King Taylor 2. So there are a number of ways we could have solved it. We made the decision to cover an entirely new paint job at Thunderbolt to make sure that there weren't any issues and we didn't have any back and forth between us and Thunderbolt of repairing some spots or not others. We're not entirely sure what the root cause of that was. We did our own investigation with John. We brought the paint expert who could not readily identify why there was that localized failure. There are some theories that I won't throw out there because we're not sure exactly what they are. It could be a corrosion related thing, but we need to dig into that more. We'll see how the new paint job does. Our recommendation is to not paint the other boat until we eliminate or identify some of the root causes that might not be entirely paint or surface preparation related. And then the last item I have here is the integrated starter generator short. So there was a leak in Cummins turbo that led to a short in the generator. And so we're still working through getting that repaired. And I think that is the list. If I've missed anything, John or Mike, please back me up. And that is all I have. We're here to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Eric, for the update. I have a couple of questions. Does anyone else around the table have any questions?
Yes, sir. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for being recognizing me. All right, so hello, Eric. Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate it. Quick question. So I understand you said that y'all are covering the cost for the paint repair. For the other issues that you mentioned, well, let me back up. Suzy King Taylor 2 and 3, what he was mentioning, are those the two new boats?
Those are the two new boats.
Suzy King Taylor 2 and then Juliet Gordon Low 2 are the two boats that were delivered for them last year. Yeah.
Okay, and that's what he was talking about.
Yeah. Our third boat is still unnamed, the one that we're on.
I understand. All right, so for the other repairs that you mentioned, I know you talked about a few shortages and signal issues and stuff like that. Who's covering the cost of those repairs?
It depends on the repair. The way the warranty is written, we are responsible for covering the costs of our workmanship, which is structure, systems installation, whereas any vendors, those warranties are passed through to CAT, and we help manage them as we have been on behalf of CAT. So the MJP signals wiring, MJP at their own cost helped identify the cause of that, and then it was fixed. Similar to BAE, the bearings on their motors failed, and so they are repairing and replacing those components. Now, the way their warranty is written, they don't cover everything. They cover their components, which is often a frustrating point from the operator's perspective. But that is how the contract is written and what their warranty states. So rigging equipment in and out of the boat is sometimes a gray area. And what Mike has been doing with John is sending BAE those invoices. They haven't said no, but they also haven't said yes and paid them.
Thank you for that. My last question is, on boat 3, do we have an estimated date of completion?
I believe the contracted date is July. I think we're ahead of schedule by my estimates, but I will defer to Mike. Mike, you can chime in or you can message me. I'm happy to relay the answer.
The contract delivery date is in the fall. I believe it's October. We are tracking to deliver it in the summer, and July is our current date. There is a little bit of risk to the July date just with the motors because we are motorless right now, and we need 2 motors repaired and sent back and replaced, and those 2 to go back to BAE. So over the next few weeks, we'll have more of a clearer example on when exactly we'll have the motors in. But we're not taking our foot off the gas. We're still doing everything else around there. So the motors can go in the week before we put it in the water. So we're still optimistic that the summer is the date.
Thank you. That was all I had, Mr. Chair.
Brent.
Yeah, I guess Eric and John can both weigh in. I mean, as we know, a bridge will be under construction later this fall, and we're probably for the next 3.5 years, we'll only have 1 lane in each direction. So the importance of the ferries, while always important, are even going to be even more important. And even there'll be 16 weekends where the bridge will be completely closed, and it'll be a detour or ferries will be the option. So I just, as a kind of a general, how do you feel? Like, are we, I know we've had a lot of, we're going to have this new technology, we're going to have problems. I mean, I totally get that. A 3rd boat will help. So that'll be another extra, boat to get people around. But like, how do we feel just generally?
I would love to weigh in. I feel optimistic about it. This first year of having these 2 new ferries, yes, we've seen a lot of roadblocks and a lot of bumps, but we're learning. All these components that we've seen failed, we're getting replaced. And we as a team here at Chatham Area Transit at Savannah Bells Ferry are learning every step of the way on how to maintain these boats properly and how to work with our vendors and our contractors to make sure they stay running. Yes, it has been very rocky, but as you just mentioned, with any newer technology out there, there's going to be lots of issues that you're not going to have with the technology that has been in service for 50 years already, like the internal combustion engine. This hybrid ferry system is new to all of us around here on these boats. But boat 3, I have to give kudos where it's due. Director Shipyard has been amazing, taking all of the lessons learned that they've seen us go through and applying it to the 3rd boat. But not only that, they have been there, to support us 100%. Some of the vendors that they get we get our components from, like BAE, I would say probably 80 to 90% of the failures we've seen have, the big failures have been because of those components failing. So obviously that's not something directors can control, but they have been a huge advocate for us as far as helping us work with BAE to get all this stuff solved. So yes, I'm very optimistic, especially once we have the 3rd boat here and operational, that we have the knowledge and the tools in place now to be able to much more quickly diagnose and solve any issues coming with the 3rd boat. Not to mention, I think there's something coming up a little bit later in your action items about getting more grant funding to help us restore and better maintain our older ferries, which is going to be a huge component to make sure that we have redundancy. That's our biggest issue right now, is having a fleet of vessels that are there ready to go. We just don't have that right now. But with continued funding and support from all of our community partners, Chatham Area Transit directors, BAE, yes, I'm optimistic that, in a year from now, we're gonna be in a whole different situation. So,
If I can expound on that too, thank you, John, for saying all that. Agree with all of it. And I also want to empathize, like I know how frustrating it is to buy these new boats and to have them not be performing in the way that you expected them to. I mean, they're not performing in the way that we expected them to either. And that's why we're working so hard with John, really above and beyond what our contractual requirements are, to make sure that you guys get the support that you need. And it's hard to make that point because it's a nuanced point. Like if you have a rider that is not being able to get over to the convention center or vice versa, talking about, who's responsible for what warranty, it doesn't matter to them. It does matter, but it doesn't matter to that rider. And so we get that. And we're going to continue to try our best to get you the support that you need from BAE. John is right that all of the out of service events have been due to BAE equipment. And I feel obligated on behalf of Mike and our team to point out that like we didn't pick BAE, and it's easy to say that in hindsight. BAE was spec'd into the design that CAT paid for. 3 or 4 years ago, I probably would have picked BAE too. We built a lot of boats with their equipment, with previous generation equipment that was more proven and had been tested on more boats. Mike and I were talking before this meeting, and he reminded me that your first boat was the second boat ever of this generation of equipment. The first one integrated with water jets in the United States. And BAE really took a blank picture redesign of all their components, from the hardware architecture to the firmware to the software. And to answer your question, I think in the long term, these boats will perform a lot more reliably than your previous boats. Getting there has been a lot more painful than I think anyone expected. So there are buses, where these GPM bearings have failed. They use metal bearings. The electrical currents caused accelerated corrosion. It's much easier to replace a motor out of a bus that you can put on a lift, drop out the motor, or you have 2 or 3 extra buses in your fleet. Right now you don't have any extra ferries, and you have 2 motors that are very difficult to get out of the boat. But now that we've identified the root cause of a lot of these problems, we've been able to be flexible and swap components around to reduce the time out of service of your boats that are down there with new components. Long-term corrective actions applied to those failed components from BAE. The reliability will only increase, and by the time the bridge is in reduced capacity in the fall, you should have 3 boats with more flexibility, more redundancy, and a lot of those root causes corrected. I know that was a long answer, but thank you.
Vice Chair Moore. Yeah. Eric, thank you for that. And I think you've answered a lot of my broader question regarding these areas. And thank you for acknowledging the level of frustration of having new ferries less than a year old and not being able to get the use out of those. My question, I'm not a maritime person, so question is more broader about the ferries that we have, the new ferry that you're building. Was there something fundamental in the design? Did we miss something in construction? Or I may not be asking the right question, but I'm just trying to get my arms around. Was there something fundamental that just caused new ferries to not operate? They needed to work. I hear you talking about BAE. And maybe that's the answer, but if you or maybe John can just sort of put some color on that, I can tell you my board at the convention center. It's a question you get every month. Why aren't they working? What's the deal? I'd love to be able to provide some sense of that.
Like I said, it is a nuanced answer, and so it's hard to communicate concisely to someone that's just wondering why the ferries aren't operating. So I'll try and I think my previous answer gave you some of that. I'll try and say more. to give you that context that can help you answer those questions. It's multiple things. Any vessel design is a trade-off between optimizations. You know, do you want it to carry the most people and be really slow, or do you want it to carry fewer people and be fast? Is a very oversimplified example of that. An example on your boat is water jets or fixed pitch propellers, dry exhaust or wet exhaust, one hybrid propulsion provider or a different, or conventional diesel or hybrid. In this case, going hybrid gave you the means through the grant to get new boats. I think it was really a confluence of a lot of those things. BAE switching from one generation of hardware to another and being an early adopter of that new generation of hardware that caused a lot of these failures. And that in an especially difficult application, like I said, in the maritime environment, where you couldn't buy 5 ferries all up at front and have redundancy in case one of the motors goes down. The complexity of the systems on the boats is also more difficult. There's more systems on board of your ferries than an equivalent BAE powered bus. So there's a lot of overlapping of symptoms and root cause analysis. For example, the temperature sensor in the motor that kept failing and causing issues operating the boat. I think that was one of the first issues that happened. We would repin it. We tried to identify the root cause. We did the noise and vibration analysis, which helped us identify that there was this abnormal vibration, and then that was corroborated by an actual failure of the motors. We were able to answer a lot of the pin issue, figured out that root cause was from the failed bearing. The noise issue that many of you brought up a couple months ago, you know, I'll take that. I was convinced that it was just water jets. You know, water jets are a noisy mode of propulsion compared to others, and they are noisy, but those motors were abnormally loud. So we identified that root cause, and so I think all of those things over time, sort of the trickle of these symptoms, it's easy to get the perception that there are all of these things wrong with the boats. Besides the BAE equipment, which is causing a number of them, there's relatively little that's actually wrong with them, besides the normal aches and pains of getting a new boat start. You know, you switch a wire here and there to solve a controls issue. You know, maybe there's a quality control issue that we fix on the keel coolers. That's not what our goal is, but on average, it's not unexpected. I think the unexpected parts predominantly come from the new generation BAE equipment. Hopefully that answered your question.
It does. With the third vessel, I know you and John spoke about it a little bit. Can you just confirm that you feel like you've mitigated a lot of these issues with the first 2 vessels and the development of the third, so that we shouldn't have these similar types of issues with the third vessel?
Yeah, certainly. I'll list a couple things, and then I'm sure Mike is going to be chomping at the bit to list all the ones he wants to answer it. So I'll give it to him.
Yes. So I think for lessons learned on the third boat, there's many things that we have done to try to alleviate some of the pains we've had in the beginning. So I'll start with BAE. So one of their lead engineers, you know, was at our shipyard, and him and I spoke a lot in detail about the issues we've been having. You know, and early on we had an issue with, you know, 2 of their components, the MPCS and the MAPS. And from our conversation, we learned that those were more generation 3 equipment systemic issues. So they were also on buses and other areas. So those have been solved. So that one is the newer technology, not really in service very long, bugs that have been worked out. We've had some software glitches and it's all new firmware for the third boat. So a lot of the software glitches and things we've learned on the software side of it have been addressed. The motor was, one of our prime problems for a good 4 to 5 months. We were really after that issue, and that kept that boat out of service for a long time. So that issue, our motors will have the correct bearings, so they should not be a problem. The MJP system, that made one of the boat's steering system pretty unreliable, and it got really bad about 2 months ago. So that problem has been resolved. We have a keel cooler leak that was due to a gasket. So the keel coolers on boat 1 and 2 are a different design than the keel coolers on boat 3. We switched to the flange style keel cooler on boat 3, which is it's a more reliable sealing method between the boat and outside of it. And I worked with the vendor, and he had told me that they have many more problems with the style that we have on boat 1 and 2 than they do with the one on 3. That's why we went with that version. That's really the bulk of the problems we've had. There's been other smaller things here and there, which are, I would class to, just generic aches and pains with something new. And they really didn't take the boat out of service. And John and I were able to work through it relatively simply. But I'm very comfortable with how boat 3 is, and, BAE as well has a better feeling about the third boat with what we've learned so far. And then also, on top of the problems we had, there were some areas that, John and I worked, with him and his captains to identify early on. And, there were things where if he had let me know early enough, we were able to address it. So like the main helm console, we were able to reduce the size of it. That way there's better visibility onto the bow and the boarding area for the captains. Adding some handrails in the back of the boat so you can, more safely get to the line handling areas. There's little things like that in many places that we were able to do that will make the boat much more reliable and easier to operate. Different gauges in the fuel tank. That way it makes it easier to read for the captain when he's trying to fuel the boat. There's tons of examples, I would say. And, we're still in communication every day about it, and we will be until the boat's delivered.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Eric. Also, John, do you have any? So we okay with everything now?
I think so.
We're up and running.
Yes, there is. I would definitely like to add to kind of answer your question. The Susie King Taylor 2, which is the boat we currently at this very moment have operating. That's the one we just changed out the 2 new motors. They were sent from directors who've installed them. They're so much quieter. You can tell that they don't have bad bearings in them anymore. So even on the inside of the boat, I know that was a complaint some people had about the noise level. But it's so much quieter. And now that we've replaced the motors and we fixed the keel cooler, knock on wood, but for the last 2 weeks, that boat has been running perfectly fine. I think a big majority of the issues we were seeing were stemming from the insane amount of vibrations that were coming from those failed motors. Now that we've been able to recognize and fix that problem, I believe a large majority of our issues have been solved because of that. And really, it's just going to be a matter of time of going through the other smaller ones. And hopefully none of the other larger BAE components fail. If they do, we are, ready to pull the trigger on getting new ones as quickly as possible. But I think just the amount that we have learned together with directors over this last year, and my crew and myself, getting in there when something fails, I'm in there almost every day, my hands on these components, getting them fixed. So I can tell you, nobody's working harder than us and directors to make sure these boats are going to be more reliable over time. I can guarantee you that. Now, when you have to answer to your friends over at the convention center, you can certainly tell them, it's the new technology and it's growing pains, but that we're working hard and we are going to have it solved. It's a matter of time.
Thank you, John. I can definitely say we did see you down in the.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That morning, you're down there actually hands on. We appreciate it. Quick question. What have you learned from the first 2 vessels going into this third one that we can take away from? Make sure we address it.
Oh boy, that's a long list right there. I don't know if we have time today.
No, I asked you that question because I want to be able to put that list together for Eric and Michael so that they can look at those things and identify prior to the new vessel being delivered here.
So that's been happening since day one, since the day we received these 2 new ferries last year.
Okay.
We have been working Because we knew at that point, I believe the timelines around that time, we were already signing the contract for the third one while we were taking delivery of the first two. So from the get-go, any little design change that we thought we could implement in the boat three, we've been communicating with them. And so, I mean, the console design to be better ergonomic for our captains, some of the layouts, there's a whole lot of little things that we've been able to do to increase the functionality and the reliability of boat three.
Thank you, John.
Another
questions?
example is trimming the size of the fenders, so they didn't drag in the water. So it's not all fixing issues, but also improving performance of the third boat.
Right.
And then the other thought I had was that Ms. Cutter advocated pretty strongly to incorporate a lot of those lessons learned in the contract up front for boat three. So that was a great benefit. And we didn't stop there. Like everything that Mike and John just listed, some of it was in the original contract, some of it we're just doing. We're just doing it because it's the right thing to do. And if anything else comes up, we can continue to make those adjustments and tweaks.
I think the
I
fenders,
can add, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was saying the fenders are a good example. Sorry, the fenders are a good example because we trimmed about a foot off of all of them, which will reduce drag in the water. But John also has an issue at the Waving Girl landing dock, where there's the way it was designed, there were 6 fenders and there was a gap in between. So we actually added a 7th one in the middle. That way, at all the docks, he'll be able to, have the right connection to it and things like that. So
That's right. I think there's a number of factors that are actually, it's not even part of the scope of our conversation necessarily, that is going to make the third ferry be more efficient. The shorter fenders, they're not going to go as far down in the water. That's going to create less drag. But also something he mentioned earlier, I don't know if you caught how they changed the layout a little bit with the fire pump's going to be on another side, the channels running through. So what that's going to mean is, on these first 2 boats, when they did the testing for the weights and balances, we had to add, what was it? I believe it was 1,200 pounds of lead brick ballast plus a whole lot of foam blocks. Well, with this small design change, we could hopefully eliminate that ballast, meaning this boat's going to be lighter from the get-go. Meaning I think we're going to see much more fuel savings. I think it's going to be a measurable fuel and energy savings on this third boat. And that's a direct result of just our hard work and, going through all the details to figure out how we can do that.
Great, Wait. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, currently, how many of our boats or of our ferries are working?
Right now,
Just
one
one.
at this very moment.
Now, with that, I'm going back to a meeting August of last year. I know the insurance folks came, and please direct me if I'm directing this question to the wrong person. I know that there was discussion about a storage insurance for our inoperable boats, where we had a reduced value, or excuse me, a reduced cost in insurance. So do we currently have that in place for our existing, for the boats that are in inoperable? Okay, got you. Well, stand by.
Yes, sir, I'll get that information from you.
Repeat your question, Mr. White.
Yes, ma'am. So-
To insurance.
Yes, ma'am. So I saw back in August when the insurers made their presentation that there was discussion about when boats are inoperable, we could put like a lesser insurance, kind of like for our cars. If I got a car in the garage, I got storage insurance or something, so I'm not paying the full rate. Do we have the ability to do that with the vessels that are inoperable currently?
It depends on the period of time that they're going to be in. If it's projected that they're going to be out of service for an entire year and not utilized, then we may see some cost savings with that. Ferry restoration, it takes a while. Parts, sometimes having to work underwater, those kinds of things. So that is a possibility. And when we meet with our broker, we try to get them to look under every stone to reduce the cost of insurance because it is tremendously high.
Right. Well, again, that's evidence. I saw it. I saw the meeting that took place in August. So then, is there a threshold? Like I know you mentioned a year. Is that kind of like that? The threshold is there if we're projecting them to be inoperable for a year, that's when we could apply for that, or is there?
Yes, because that's when insurance is negotiated once a year. And we try to capture all incidents that could possibly impact our coverage, whether the cost is up or down.
And then last question in the insurance vein. So our insurance coverage is covering for liability and the body? Yes. All right, okay, and so during that I'll get with you offline. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Director Brantley, you got anything else? Anyone else for the body? Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to, I know we have new board members. Most of the board members are new, except Director Snowden and Director, our chairperson. But that prior to CAT years ago going out for construction of new ferry vessels, they procured the services of a engineering design architect that had a number of years experience with building naval vessels to ensure that the design of these new vessels would be a good design. With that, they have been a part and around the table as John and the representatives of Director, myself at sometimes, as we talk through all of the issues. And I just wanted to say, and this was back in 2019, I believe, when the design architect was on, that the authority did due diligence in trying to make sure that this construction process went smoothly. In addition to that, the federal government was promoting hybrid rolling stock and electric rolling stock. And in order to receive those federal dollars, you have to go where their priorities are. Now that priority has changed, so you will be seeing we're going back to diesels and that kind of thing. So just keep that history in mind, but there was due diligence taken years ago from the beginning of this.
Thank you, Ms. Cutter.
I have one question. I just want to know, have y'all been having problems with procuring repair parts for it?
So as far as BAE is concerned, yes, that can be an issue only because of the low volume of some of the components made specifically for our ferries. There's what you mentioned earlier, the NPCS and the MAP system. That was built specifically for our vessels. So in other words, there's nowhere on this earth I can go to buy one of those off the shelf. To get those repaired, they have to be sent to BAE to be repaired and sent back to us.
Can I have a list of repair parts that you have a problem with, please?
Yeah, I will get that for you. Yes, it's the two main components, MAPS and NPCS is what they're called. And they're the parts of the control system for the hybrid electric system.
Okay, yeah, if I can get the name, part number, stock number, that would be helpful.
Well, I think what he's saying, the part that you're asking about is the part that is unique to the vessel. We don't have to give a part number for it. It's just something that's made primarily for each vessel.
That's correct.
Yeah, but it can be, you can find another part that can be modified to that.
Well, I think what he's actually saying is that part, it can't be modified because it's only made by one person for the specific boat itself.
That's right. Now there are other components like the motors that, as he mentioned earlier, go on to a lot of electric buses. So those are mass produced. Those are more easily attainable. There are other parts like the Cummins generators that we have. Obviously, we don't have any trouble sourcing components for those. And our steering system, there's no trouble there. Really, the only real unique systems on the boats have to do with the BAE hybrid electric system in particular. This Gen 2 system that was installed into our boat. And those are unique systems that were built specifically for our vessels that you can't find anywhere else in the world. But that's a small list of components for these vessels.
Thank you, John.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Michael, also, and your team. We'll stay in contact. We really appreciate you guys being as transparent as possible and working with us to get these vessels in the water. As you may know, this is our busiest time within this county, moving back and forth. And now that we have the bridge operation that will happen, we're really gonna need you guys' help with making sure that our fleet is up and moving forward. So thank you on behalf of our CEO and our directors and our board and our employees for being good partners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If ever we can move forward with the consent agenda, I ask everyone to please peruse your consent agenda. If you have any pull-outs, please let us know.
Chairman, I don't have any pullouts, but I'd love just to hear maybe a sentence or two on each of these requests, just what they,
Okay.
what they are, the threshold directed spending request and then the transit trust fund request. We just, don't need to be in depth, but we just get a, what are we asking for?
The Director Whiteley, do you have any pull-out?
Yeah, just on 4.3, I have a question.
This is question on 4 and 3.
4.3.
4.3.
So that's, I think it's item 3.
Yeah. It's just 4.3, that's it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you needed to hear 1 and 2.
2, 3, and 4, and I mean, I know I can obviously pull it up and read it myself, but I'd love just a sentence or two on what we're asking for those.
Okay, on item 2, that's the application that went to Georgia Department of Transportation, funding through the Transit Trust Fund Program. Because our capital budget is very limited, this was another opportunity for us, both 2, 3, and 4, to bring in some capital dollars to replace rolling stock. For GDOT, what we've asked for funding $383 some odd dollars to improve our bus stops. We talk about our brain. The first thing that our riders see are the conditions of our bus stops. So in line with the master transit plan, we are seeking funding to support that. The congressionally directed spending that was forwarded to Senator Ossoff's office is to restore 3 of the existing ferry vessels. Because of capital funding shortages, it is most cost effective to restore and extend the useful life than to try to procure $6-7 million each for 3 new ferries. And number 4, we sent an application to Senator Warnock's office, and that was for 5 replacement diesel buses. As you all have heard, a fleet is much better than it was because we procured vehicles over the last 3 years, but replacing fully depreciated vessels. So this is an opportunity to provide us some capital dollars after the last 6 months.
Thank you. Whiteley, did you need to have a conversation about number 4?
No, so
I can send it to both items. I can send it to individual items.
no, it's just item. If you'll scroll down, sir, for next steps. So. Yeah, so as somebody who has been blessed to be able to read hundreds of pages of minutes and items from here, I just say that under next steps, I see where it says execute grant award, and it's confusing because this is an application, if I'm not mistaken.
It is, and once it is approved, then we have to move into the actual procurement of the good or service. That's what that.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. All right. Thank you.
And that's only after the board ratified, because we were on a tight deadline to get the application in.
I definitely understand. I'm glad y'all got it in.
Yes.
I got a little thrown off there.
Yes, that's.
Accept the motion in a second to accept the consent agenda, items 1 through 6.
Move that we accept the number 4 consent items, agenda 1 through 6.
Second.
Properly moving second that we accept the consent agenda.
Director Bryant,
Yes.
Director Bradley,
Yes.
Director Lasser,
Yes.
Director Snowden,
Yes.
Director Damasimo, not present for the vote, Director Owens. Director Owens. Not present for the vote, Director Whiteley,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Dr. Buford,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moore,
Yes.
and Chairman Leggett.
Yes.
Chairman motion passed to approve item 4.1 through 4.6.
Thank you, Beverly. Now we're moving to our executive director's report and our monthly unit updates.
So let's have the report for those ready. Okay, Ms. Dumas is going to share with you a copy of the executive report. On last week, I was tied up all week with ACTA, sitting on panels and attending that conference. So typically, I try to get my report to you at least a week in advance. However, it's a detailed report and it gives you an overview of what's going on today with the authority. The main thing that I want to highlight is kind of giving everybody an update of what has occurred thus far, in addition to a reminder that this is budget season. We are in the heart of it. We've gotten in the requests from the management team, and we will be, myself and the finance team will be sitting down with the department managers as we move forward with balancing the FY 27 budget. I must say to you, it's going to be extremely difficult. In my executive report, I have provided a spreadsheet directly from the Transit Management System. And all of these, it's on page 9, the document. These are the grants that grant applications that are currently under review with the FTA. And what I've done, particularly as it relates to the local match challenges that we will face, which totals a deficit of $8.6 million. And what I've attempted to do for you all to just read the report and think about it, and I've identified some options for consideration as we move forward. Depending upon what the revenue projections look like and whether or not we are able to identify additional sustainable sources of revenue, the FY 27 budget is really going to be slim. We're going to try to keep it in line with the FY 26 budget. The goal is to not lay off any staff. We may not be able to move forward with some capital projects, but as we go into our budget workshops, reality of where we are financially, we'll be discussing that and talking through it and coming up with the best options for our Chatham Area Transit Authority. So if you will, just take some time to kind of study the report. It gives you a thorough review of the conditions of the authority and where we go. The guiding documents for the next 10 years, unless the plan is amended by this board, will be the implementation of the strategies that are outlined within the Master Transit Plan that was adopted in July of 2023. And that, of course, was a collaborative community plan. It was funded FTA $400,000 20,000 from the county, 20 from the city, 20 from CETA, and 20,000 from the airport commission for a total of $500,000 investment in the transit master. Any questions thus far? Yes, sir.
Just one, there was an application for a grant, for preventative maintenance. Did we receive that? It was for $280,000.
That is a formula grant. The authority receives preventive maintenance money, not only through FTA, but federal highway for ferry boat preventive maintenance. And yes, we do use it. Now, that funding also allows us to use it for other capital purchases as well. Yes.
So we were awarded that.
Yes, yes.
Any other questions? Well, yeah, I'm good. I would just, one thing, see on here, it says Chatham County forensic audit, and it's my understanding. You might see it differently. I never heard what we were doing as a forensic audit, relates to internal audit coming over. It's just an audit.
That's what we were talking.
In writing?
That's what those were, we met with the county staff prior to. And it followed up from, I believe it was a request that the CAT board previously used that terminology. And the county brought there, even though we were undergoing a triennial and our annual audit, and that terminology was used.
In writing? They wrote that, they emailed you that, or said that? They
No,
just said
that
verbally?
it's documented, and it was in the minutes of the CAT board. That terminology was used, and when there was communication back and forth between CAT and the county, and that terminology was used verbally, and it was documented in the CAT board. This Royals financial report. Good afternoon. Financial overview is as follows. Revenues for February actual $1,623,000. Expenses $2,102,000. Our revenues are under expenses for the month of February $479,000. Our year-to-date actual versus budget comparison. Our year-to-date actual is $20,239,000 for revenues. Budget $24,462,000. Revenues year-to-date are under budget $4,223,000. Expenses actual $18,154,000. Year-to-date budget $23,404,000. Our expenses are under budget $5,250,000. Net year-to-date variance $1,026,000. Next slide. Revenues collected during the month of February came in at these percentages. Grant percent 16%. Special district transit tax 17%. Air transit 37%. Contract revenue 21%. Passenger fares 6%. Other category, 3%. Next slide. Expense category, salary and wages, the highest category, 45%. Employee benefits, 19%. Insurance, 15%. All other categories, service, other, utilities, fuel, repairs, and maintenance supplies, less than 10%. Next slide. Our comparative report fiscal year 26 to 25, revenue and expenses. Our year-to-date revenues for fiscal year 26, 20,239,000. Fiscal year 25, 24,534,000. The change in revenues, fiscal year 26 to 25, 4,295,000. Expenses, fiscal year 26, 18,154,000. Fiscal year 25, 17,742,000, or a change in expenses, 411,000. Next slide. This is our bank accounts by type. And we have here our operating, grant, and capital and special projects. As of the end of February, our operating account balance, 16,588,000. Grant, 3,721,000. Capital and special projects, 4,208,000. Next slide. Interest earned on the accounts operating for the month of February, $7,074. Capital and special projects, $992. Capital grant, $632. The Georgia Fund investment, $27,433. Monthly total earned in interest for February, $36,131. Next slide. Our Georgia Fund reserve account balance as of February 1st, $9,513,000. Interest earned during the period, $27,433. Balance in account as of February 28th, $9,541,000. Slide. These are our receipts received from our partnering agencies and from FTA during the month of February. Chatham County Special Transit District taxes, $267,000. Chatham County Paratransit, $608,000. City of Savannah DOT shuttle, $198,000. City of Savannah PRR fees for marine services, $87,000. City of Port Wentworth, $35,000. During the month of February, we received operating assistance from FTA, $263,000. We also received federal funding through 2 grants for the purchase of 2 buses. We received on one grant 80% of the cost of a bus, which equates to $1,086,000. Second bus, we received 50% from FTA, which equates to $678,000. Our operating cash balance for the month, $16,402,000. Next slide. As I stated from the previous slide, our ending February balance, $16,402,000. We project our June 2026 ending balance for $16,621,000. Next slide. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Quick return. Gas prices are up. I'm assuming that means our fuel prices are up. Have you seen that Are we mostly diesel on the,
Mostly diesel, some of our
those are way up.
vehicles, use gas.
We've seen that hit, I assume that. Yeah.
Check on that soon and you can see the prices for that. Are there any other questions?
Oh, ma'am, thank you, Ms. Royal.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes, sir, Mr. Taylor.
Are there any grants out there that could help us with the fuel?
You know, the FTA gives us that preventive maintenance monies. And that's really what helps us. We continuously are looking for grants. The thing with grants, you have to have local match monies. And right now, we have to be very selective as it relates to the type of grants. For example, Ms. Royal just reported, we had one grant for an electric bus. The local match was 50%. And we're having to make up for that money. We have to come up with. So it's really hard right now because most grants, there is a local match required.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, Ms. Roy. I have another question in that regard. So have you asked anybody else for the match?
Yes, that's coming.
Okay, it's coming, thank
Yes, sir. And when you read the report, you'll see on that last page with the spreadsheet, the 8 million in local match shortfall. Just some suggestions that asking the board to advocate for is local match dollars so that we can execute those grants, buy those buses and do the things that we need to do.
you. Just so we're all clear, parentheses means negative, right? That's
Sure.
after the meeting, Ms. Cutter, can I meet with you and Ms. Roy, just for your comments?
Then we move to our contractual monthly updates. See that we do have in the gallery, but we don't have any reports from our ATU local 1324. Item number 7.2, we did have something from Georgia Public Affairs, but it was sent in, guys, and I didn't think that it was proper to give it to you because we don't have a contract with the. So we're gonna have a conversation with our vendor. Just so that they know that when they send us something that has to come, they're letterhead. It came in from somebody else. Federal government affairs updates, White and Wire, Patton Boggs, we didn't receive anything from them this month either, so. With that, there's no old and new business.
Sure. Yes, I have one quick thing is, it was included in the report and the director's report on link. For item 6.1, marketing and communications update. In there, one of the things that was listed was service alerts. And it gave two ways that we do service alerts. I think one was through our website, one was through social media. I just want to ask that we add press release to that.
We do send out press releases, it comes actually through Press Secretary's office through Ms. Cuts for service alerts.
Yes, all right, it wasn't included on the report, that's why.
And also, we're gonna bring you up to speed also, we do have our CAT app. So a lot of those service, so during when we have issues with any services, they either send out during text or if it does go through social media or on the website itself.
I got you. Again, I'm stating as somebody who had the blessing of reading hundreds of pages. What is written isn't always, we don't always get the opportunity to tell somebody something different, right? And so I want to just make sure that we're operating in that space of, if we're putting it on paper, we're operating the whole thing, not interpretation. That was all.
Thank you, sir. Again, we don't have any old or new business. But before we make an adjournment, I want to say thank you guys. We do have our 3 board members back. We have Director Whiteley. We have our returning Director Buford, and also Director Taylor. Welcome back to our board. Like I said, taking an entire effort for us to move this agency forward. But I just want to give kudos to our CEO, Ms. Stunner, and her staff. We did have an opportunity during St. Patrick's Day, guys. I can give you guys a wonderful update that I ran into a couple of visitors riding around in the golf cart. I ran into 2 young ladies, and they were lost. They didn't know how to get back on the bus, and gave them a ride from Broughton Street to Henry and Abercrombie. I didn't know which bus was going to come, but I used the CAT app. It worked wonderfully. I was able to tell them what bus was coming. It was the 14 Abercrombie, how far it was, and being able to let them know when the bus was coming. The bus was accurate. It was on time, and I'm gonna especially give a shout out to the operators who drove those buses. And they also called me the next day and said they had a wonderful event with a young man who was driving the bus, 14, because they was in the hotels. And he said they were getting off the bus and went to the wrong place. And the man got off the bus and put them in the right direction where they need to go. So our family, which is our team, which is our operators, are actually doing wonderful things. I would love to I'm going to find out who they are so that we can highlight them. And I just tell people just to be aware, because there's always people out there watching us for seeing what we're doing. So I'm just happy to know that our CAT app is working. And I just ask everybody on the board, just make sure you download the CAT app so you'll be able to use it when it's time.
Right now.
So with that being said, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah.